In the heart of the American South, a revolution is quietly unfolding. Not with protests, but with purchases. Millions and millions of dollars worth. This is the story of how Arkansas, a state you might think of as deeply conservative, took a gamble on medical cannabis and is now hitting an economic jackpot. So, forget what you think you know about the pot industry. We're going to follow the money, break down the numbers, and show you how this green rush is changing the natural state's economy, one sale at a time. Here's the headline. In Arkansas, a green wave is bringing in around $800,000 in cash every single day. That isn't some wild guess. It's what's happening right now in a market that is absolutely exploding. This is the story of how Arkansas's bet on medical marijuana is shattering records, generating millions in tax revenue, and transforming local economies. Let's follow the money and see just how big this boom really is. The green boom in the natural state. To wrap your head around what's happening here, you have to look at the numbers. Since the first dispensary opened its doors back in May 2019, patients in Arkansas have spent a staggering $1.5 billion on medical marijuana. That's not a slow trickle, it's a flood. The state saw sales jump from just $31 million in its first year to nearly $283 million in 2023. And it looks like 2025 will be the biggest year yet. Through the first 8 months of 2025 alone, sales have already topped $193 million. That's a more than 6% jump from the same time last year, putting the industry on a clear path to break its own record. This steady, year-over-year growth tells a powerful story. In a region not exactly famous for its cannabis culture, Arkansas has quietly become a giant in the medical marijuana space. So how did this happen? The whole thing started in November 2016, when 53% of voters approved the Arkansas Medical Marijuana Amendment. This landmark decision legalized cannabis for patients with one of 17 qualifying medical conditions, setting the stage for the boom we're seeing today. It was a cautious first step after a similar measure had narrowly failed just 4 years earlier. But the persistence paid off. This wasn't just about creating a new market. It was about providing alternative treatments and, in the process, unlocking a potent new source of state revenue. The real question is, in a state that still bans recreational use and where efforts to expand the program keep hitting a wall, what's driving this relentless surge? The answer seems to be a mix of growing patient acceptance and a surprisingly competitive market. Following the money, a river of tax revenue. When an industry is pulling in nearly $1 million a day, you have to ask, where is all that money going? In Arkansas, a huge chunk of it flows directly into the state's pockets, where it funds critical public services. So far in 2025, medical marijuana sales have generated about $21.57 million in tax revenue. That money comes from two places: the standard 6.5% state sales tax that patients pay, and a 4% privilege tax that's charged when cultivation facilities sell their product to dispensaries. And this isn't just some number in a government spreadsheet. A significant portion of this tax money is specifically set aside for the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences National Cancer Designation Trust Fund. Over the years, more than $90 million from cannabis taxes has gone toward helping UAMs in its quest to become a nationally recognized cancer institute. Think about that. A patient buying their medicine in Hot Springs is directly helping to fund world-class cancer research in Little Rock. The benefits don't stop there. State legislators recently passed a law to use some of this cannabis tax money to fund school meal programs, helping to tackle food insecurity for students. From cancer research to feeding kids, the economic impact of medical marijuana is real and getting wider every day. The cannabis market, once a source of legal and moral debate, has now become a surprising pillar of financial support for some of the state's most important institutions. The dispensary boom. Marijuana on Main Street. The engine room of this whole operation is the network of 37 licensed dispensaries scattered across Arkansas. And these aren't shady back-alley shops. They're professional, modern stores that have become part of their local economies. From Bentonville to West Memphis, these businesses are where the numbers turn into real-world commerce. And the amount of product moving through these stores is massive. In just the first 5 months of 2025, dispensaries sold over 32,000 pounds of medical cannabis, a big jump from the 30,000 pounds sold during the same period in 2024. By the end of August 2025, that number had already climbed to over 52,000 pounds for the year. The competition is fierce, and a few key players have risen to the top. Dispensaries like Suite 443 in Hot Springs and Natural Relief in Sherwood are consistently at the top of the sales charts. In August 2025 alone, Suite 443 sold over 714 pounds of cannabis, making it #1 in the state. Right behind them, Natural Relief sold nearly 655 pounds. Other heavy hitters like Crop in Jonesboro and Harvest in Conway are also moving hundreds of pounds every month. But this is about more than just selling a product. It's about creating jobs, filling empty storefronts, and sparking local economic activity. Each dispensary has a staff, pays local taxes, and becomes a trusted provider for patients in the community. They are even required to have pharmacists available for consultations, adding a layer of clinical oversight. These dispensaries are the human face of the industry, the marijuana on Main Street that has turned a controversial idea into a thriving, regulated marketplace. The patient perspective. A growing demand. At the end of the day, the entire medical cannabis industry in Arkansas is built on one simple thing: patient demand. And that demand is growing fast. Right now, there are about 109,000 active medical marijuana patient cards in the state. That's a 12 to 13% increase just since the start of 2024, which shows a growing acceptance of cannabis as a legitimate medical treatment. To get a card, a person has to be diagnosed by an Arkansas doctor with one of 17 specific conditions. The list is pretty extensive, covering severe illnesses like cancer, PTSD, severe arthritis, intractable pain, and fibromyalgia. For these tens of thousands of Arkansans, medical cannabis isn't for fun. It's a prescribed therapy for conditions that often don't respond to other treatments. The program allows a patient to buy up to 2.5 ounces of cannabis every 14 days, a supply designed to provide consistent relief. That framework acknowledges the medical need for a steady supply, which in turn drives the daily sales figures we're seeing. The growth in patient numbers is the single best sign of the market's health. It shows that more doctors are comfortable certifying patients, and more Arkansans see this as a real healthcare option. This expanding patient base is the foundation that the entire $283 million a year industry is built on. Without them, the tax revenue would disappear and the dispensaries would close. At its core, the sales surge is really a story about more and more people finding a new way to get well. Growing pains and potency. Questions. Of course, no industry this new and controversial is without its challenges. To get the full picture, we have to talk about the concerns that come with such rapid growth. One of the biggest debates is about the potency of the products being sold. Some medical marijuana in Arkansas dispensaries has THC levels hitting 25 to 30%, which is way stronger than the illegal cannabis of a few decades ago. For comparison, the average potency of marijuana seized by the DEA in 2022 was about 16%. This has led to public health warnings and concerns from some doctors about side effects like anxiety or paranoia, especially for new users. The long-term effects of using such high THC products regularly are still largely unknown. There have also been questions about whether the THC levels on product labels are even accurate. A federal lawsuit filed in Arkansas accused several cultivators and a lab of inflating THC percentages on their labels, claiming tests showed the potency was overstated by an average of 25%. That's a big deal for consumer trust. Patients rely on those labels to dose their medicine correctly, and if the labels are wrong, it undermines the medical integrity of the whole program. Finally, some researchers worry about diversion, whether the large amounts some people can buy, up to 2.5 ounces every 2 weeks, are really just for them. Industry folks say patients who live far from a dispensary often buy in bulk, but regulators worry that some of that legal product could end up on the black market. These aren't easy problems to solve, but they're a critical part of the conversation as Arkansas figures out its new identity as a major medical cannabis state. Conclusion: the story of cannabis in Arkansas is a wild ride. What started as a squeaker of a ballot measure in 2016 has exploded into a massive industry that's on track to break its own sales records while pumping tens of millions of dollars into cancer research and school lunches. With nearly 110,000 patients and 37 dispensaries, the state's regulated medical market has proven to be more than just viable, it's a powerhouse. From a controversial vote to a $1.5 billion industry, the green rush has put down deep roots in the natural state. It's created jobs, funded essential services, and given relief to thousands of patients, all while forcing some tough conversations about safety, society, and medicine. But the story is far from over. Efforts to legalize recreational use have failed so far, leaving Arkansas in a unique spot, a state with a hugely successful medical program that's holding firm against going any further. The future is sure to be full of new debates over potency, regulation, and where cannabis policy goes from here. What do you think is the next step for cannabis in Arkansas? Should the state expand the program, or just go for full legalization? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And for more deep dives into the business of cannabis, make sure to subscribe.